Good evening. This is All India Radio. I am Valsa Williams and with me is Renuka with the evening news. The headlines. Government intensifies efforts to meet oxygen supply throughout the country. Railway delivers 450 metric tons of liquid medical oxygen to Maharashtra, Uttar Pradesh and Delhi. More than 14 crore 52 lakh people administered COVID-19 vaccines so far. Over 2 lakh 50,000 people recover from COVID-19 in last 24 hours. Country witnesses some respite from a record number of new COVID-19 cases. Ayush Ministry releases revised guidelines for COVID-19 patients in home isolation and for self-care during pandemic. 2-week lockdown to come into force from tonight in Karnataka to check the spread of COVID-19 cases. Night curfew imposed in Assam till 1st of May. Election Commission bans all victory processions on or after the day of counting of votes for assembly polls in 5 states. Country's organic food product exports rise by more than 50% despite COVID-19 challenges. And in IPL cricket, Delhi Capitals take on Royal Challengers Bangalore in Ahmedabad. As the number of COVID cases is on the rise again, we appeal to our listeners not to lower their guard, take all precautions, and all those above 45 years of age to get vaccinated without any hesitation. Stay safe and protected by following these 3 simple steps. Wear a face mask, maintain 2 gaz ki duri for social distancing, focus on hand and face hygiene. And now the news in detail. The government has stepped up efforts to meet the oxygen supply throughout the country. The centre has imported 20 cryogenic tankers of 10 metric tons and 20 metric tons capacity and allocated them to states to address the shortage of oxygen tankers in the country. These cryogenic ISO containers have been imported to augment the transportation of oxygen. The Ministry of Road Transport and Highways, in consultation with the Department for Promotion of Industry and Internal Trade, has mapped the allocation to suppliers of Madhya Pradesh, Uttar Pradesh, Rajasthan, Delhi and Gujarat. India received the first shipment of medical aid from Britain today. The External Affairs Ministry said the shipment includes 100 ventilators and 95 oxygen concentrators. Foreign nations, including US, France, Germany, Israel and the EU, have promised aid to India in the light of the massive surge in COVID cases throughout the country. The countries have said they will provide oxygen diagnostic tests, ventilators and protective gear. A report.
France will send 8 high-capacity oxygen generators, liquid oxygen and ventilators. White House said the US will provide a range of emergency assistance, including oxygen-related supplies, vaccine materials and therapeutics. Yesterday, IAF C-17 airlifted 6 cryogenic oxygen containers from Dubai Airport and landed at the Panagarh Air Base. Airlift for another 6 containers from Dubai is planned for today. Oxygen containers from Bangkok were airlifted by the Air Force. Containers were also airlifted from Changi Airport in Singapore last Saturday. Suparna Saikia, AIR News, Delhi.
The Railways has delivered 450 metric tons of liquid medical oxygen to Maharashtra, Uttar Pradesh and Delhi in 6 Oxygen Express. It has delivered this liquid medical oxygen through 26 tankers covering more than 10,000 kilometers. The Railway Ministry said Indian Railways is continuing its journey of delivering liquid medical oxygen to various parts of the country. Delhi has received its first Oxygen Express carrying more than 70 metric tons of liquid medical oxygen today early morning. The ministry said currently another Oxygen Express is on the run from Bokaro to Bhopal via Jabalpur. This train is carrying 90 metric tons of liquid medical oxygen in 6 tankers, which will replenish oxygen demand in Madhya Pradesh. Another empty rake from Lucknow has reached Bokaro, which will bring another set of oxygen tankers replenishing oxygen supply to Uttar Pradesh. As per provisional estimates, the Railways has delivered 202 metric tons to Uttar Pradesh, 174 metric tons to Maharashtra and 70 metric tons to Delhi. Madhya Pradesh will receive 64 metric tons in next 24 hours. The Railways has made nearly 4,000 COVID care coaches with almost 64,000 beds ready for use by states. the Railways Ministry said at present 169 coaches have been handed over to various states for COVID care. It has deployed COVID care coaches in Uttar Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra and Delhi to assist the states in view of rising corona cases in the country. In Delhi, the railway has catered to the full demand of state governments for 75 COVID care coaches with a capacity of 1,200 beds. The ministry said 50 coaches are positioned at Shakur Basti and 25 coaches at Anand Vihar stations. In Uttar Pradesh, 10 coaches each are placed at Faizabad, Bhadohi, Varanasi, Bareilly and Nazibabad, totaling to a capacity of 800 beds. The ministry said new demand for COVID coaches has come from Nagpur district. In this direction, a memorandum of understanding has been signed between Divisional Railway Manager Nagpur and Commissioner Nagpur Municipal Corporation. The railways are also mobilizing isolation coaches at Ajni ICD area in Maharashtra as per the state demand. The world's largest COVID-19 vaccination drive is smoothly progressing in the country. The Health and Family Welfare Ministry has informed that over 33,59,000 doses of COVID-19 vaccines were administered to the beneficiaries in the last 24 hours. The ministry said over 14 crore 52 lakh people have already been inoculated with COVID-19 vaccine jabs in the country so far. From the 1st of next month, which is also the third phase of the largest vaccination drive, everyone above the age of 18 years will be eligible to take COVID vaccines. The registration for the third phase will begin from tomorrow on the CoWIN platform and Arogya Setu app. The centre has provided more than 15 crore vaccines so far to the states and union territories free of cost. The Union Health Ministry said more than 1 crore doses of vaccine are still available with the states and UTs to be administered. India had launched the world's largest vaccination drive on 16th of January this year. The ministry said more than 80 lakh doses will be received in addition by the states and UTs in the next 3 days. The Health Ministry said recently some media reports quoting some government officials from Maharashtra have pointed out that the vaccines in the state are finished and adversely impacting the vaccination drive in the state. The ministry clarified that the total COVID vaccine doses received by Maharashtra as on today are more than 1 crore 58 lakh. Of this, the total consumption including wastage was more than 1 crore 49 lakh. It said balance of more than 9,23,000 doses are still available with the state for administration of vaccine doses to the eligible population groups. Furthermore, 3 lakh doses of COVID vaccine are in the pipeline for delivery in the next 3 days.
Amidst the second wave of COVID-19, the country today witnessed some respite from a record number of new COVID-19 cases. The Health Ministry said over 3,23,000 fresh cases have been reported in the country in the last 24 hours, which is around 30,000 less than the cases reported yesterday. However, the active caseloads in several states and union territories are still rising. As a result, the recovery rate is continuously declining in the country. The ministry has informed at present there are over 28,82,000 active cases in the country, which comprises 16.34% of the total positive cases. The recovery rate has further declined to 82.53%. The ministry informed that more than 2,51,000 people have recovered from the coronavirus infection in the last 24 hours. So far, more than 1 crore 45 lakh patients have recovered from the infectious disease in the country. The Health Ministry has said over 2,700 deaths have been reported in the country in the last 24 hours, taking the toll to over 1,97,000 across the country. The Uttar Pradesh government has directed administrative officials to implement the system of hospital bed allocation and discharge policy effectively. Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath said that senior officers must ensure availability of beds, oxygen and medicines to the needy COVID patients, and if the directions are not followed properly, then the concerned district magistrate and chief medical officer will be held responsible. Our Lucknow correspondent has filed this report.
The state government has said that oxygen availability is improving day by day and number of tankers are also increasing. 64 tankers are dedicated for this work and 20 tankers are supplying oxygen directly to the hospitals from different districts. 8 more tankers have been provided by central government. Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath said that oxygen supply needs to be improved in Agra, Mathura and Aligarh areas and action in this direction should be taken immediately. Meanwhile, there is a good news from Lucknow also, where more than 6,000 patients recovered from the coronavirus, while around 4,200 new patients were found in last 24 hours. This is the fifth consecutive day when the number of new COVID patients is less than the number of patients discharged in a single day in city. Sushil Chandra Tiwari, AIR News, Lucknow.
Maharashtra Health Minister Rajesh Tope has said that the centre allowed vaccination for the age group between 18 to 45 years from the 1st of May, but the availability of the COVID-19 vaccine is necessary to achieve the objective. He said Maharashtra is planning to float a global tender to procure vaccines from two domestic manufacturers, Serum Institute of India and Bharat Biotech, but they have not responded yet. More from our Mumbai correspondent.
Maharashtra Health Minister Dr. Rajesh Tope asked two domestic vaccine manufacturers to supply 12 crore vaccine doses for Maharashtra, but Serum Institute of India and Bharat Biotech both have not responded yet. Dr. Tope said if we don't get vaccines, we are unable to start vaccination from May 1st. Maharashtra has over 5 crore people between the age group of 18-45 years. Dr. Tope further said Maharashtra has appealed to the Government of India to intervene and help if Maharashtra is unable to procure the required stock due to shortage. He said he wrote a letter to concerned companies to manufacture vaccines. On the other hand, he asked 18 to 45 years age group to register on Arogya Setu app or Cowin app. No vaccination without registration, he said. He further said that yesterday Maharashtra crossed 1,50,000 vaccination in a day and already crossed total 1 crore 50 lakh immunization. There is no compromise on vaccination, he said. Bhavna Gokhale, AIR News, Mumbai.
Kerala reported highest single-day surge in COVID cases today as it confirmed 32,819 new cases. More from our Thiruvananthapuram correspondent.
Chief Minister Pinarayi Vijayan said that the presence of double mutant virus is causing the rapid increase in COVID cases in the state. As the COVID situation continues to worsen, oxygen stock is being enhanced in the state along with other COVID treatment facilities. Over 1,41,000 samples were tested in the last 24 hours. The test positivity rate is at alarming 23.24%. Ernakulam and Kozhikode are the worst hit districts. Over 18,000 recoveries were also reported today. 32 more deaths was confirmed due to COVID, taking the death toll to 5,170. Presently, over 2,47,000 active COVID cases are there in Kerala. Mayush Shah for AR News from Thiruvananthapuram.
The Union Territory of Puducherry recorded 1,021 new cases of COVID-19 today. For the second day today, the number of cases crossed 1,000. 13 people died due to COVID-19, taking the death toll to 771. More from our Puducherry correspondent.
At present, the active cases aggregated to 7,828, including 1,522 persons in hospitals and 6,306 cases in home isolation. 690 persons discharged from the hospitals. The recovery rate and case fatality rate stands at 84.38% and 1.4% respectively. Out of 7,73,660 tests conducted, 6,95,574 recorded negative. Meanwhile, 1,87,641 persons administered vaccination in the UT, including 31,491 healthcare workers, 18,473 frontline staffs and 1,15,536 general public. The health department is making all arrangements for the vaccination of people above 18 years of age from May 1st onwards. The registration for vaccination will begin tomorrow. Chandramohan, AR News, Puducherry.
The Supreme Court today again clarified that while taking up the shortage of oxygen, medicines, vaccine and other supplies in the COVID crisis, it did not intend to stop High Courts from hearing petitions in various states. The court said it intended to play a complementary role and could not be a silent spectator at this time. The three-judge bench of Justices D.Y. Chandrachud, N. Rao and Ravindra S. Bhatt observed that they are playing a complementary role. If High Courts have any difficulty in dealing with issues due to territorial limitations, Supreme Court will help. The Supreme Court has allowed Vedanta to operate its oxygen production unit on standalone basis at copper plant in Tuticorin, Tamil Nadu. This follows reports of acute oxygen shortage in the country as the second wave of COVID-19 posed a fresh challenge. The bench headed by Justice D.Y. Chandrachud passed the order after taking on record the decision taken by the Tamil Nadu government. Tamil Nadu government had allowed the reopening of the plant yesterday following an all-party meeting. The centre had requested the Apex Court to grant permission to Vedanta to reopen the sterile plant to augment the oxygen reserve in view of the ongoing pandemic. The plant was closed in 2018 following a firing incident in which 18 people were killed as law and order issue arose due to the environmental problems created by it. The Delhi High Court today asked the Delhi government to take over an oxygen refilling plant with immediate effect and also served contempt notice to 5 other refillers. The court cautioned the Delhi government and asked to take strict measures to ensure that medical oxygen should cost minimal to the common people. The court also ordered the Delhi government to send its officers to the oxygen plants and take over the running of those plants if required. A bench of Justice Vipin Sanghi and Rekha Palli, while hearing a plea made by hospitals regarding the shortage of oxygen and drugs, said that the Delhi government should deal with the rising cases. You are listening to the evening news on All India Radio. A reminder of the headlines before we move on. Government intensifies efforts to meet oxygen supply throughout the country. Railway delivers 450 metric tons of liquid medical oxygen to Maharashtra, Uttar Pradesh and Delhi. More than 14 crore 52 lakh people administered COVID-19 vaccines so far. Over 2,50,000 people recover from COVID-19 in the last 24 hours. Country witnesses some respite from a record number of new COVID-19 cases. Ayush Ministry releases revised guidelines for COVID-19 patients in home isolation and for self-care during pandemic. 2-week lockdown to come into force from tonight in Karnataka to check the spread of COVID-19 cases. Night curfew imposed in Assam till 1st of May. Election Commission bans all victory processions on or after the day of counting of votes for assembly polls in 5 states. Country's organic food product exports rise by more than 50% despite COVID-19 challenges. And in IPL cricket, Delhi Capitals take on Royal Challengers Bangalore in Ahmedabad. For quick news updates round the clock, follow us on Twitter at AIR News Alerts.
चलो मिलकर एक शुरुआत करें, चलो एक फैसला आज करें, मास्क नहीं तो टोकेंगे, कोरोना को रोकेंगे, चलो एक इरादा करते हैं, चलो कुछ वादा करते हैं, मास्क नहीं तो टोकेंगे, कोरोना को रोकेंगे.
Welcome back to the evening news. Responding to the need for fresh guidelines in the face of the emergence of the second wave of the pandemic, the Ministry of Ayush today released revised guidelines for Ayurveda and Unani practitioners for COVID-19 patients in home isolation. The ministry has also released Ayurveda and Unani preventive measures for self-care during the COVID-19 pandemic. These guidelines and advisories were developed through extensive consultative process by the Empowered Committee within the Interdisciplinary Ayush Research and Development Task Force set up by the Ministry of Ayush. The Ministry of Ayush issued an advisory on the 29th of January last year on how to protect oneself from COVID-19 and how to stay healthy. In this context, the Ministry of Ayush has advised use of ready-made formulation like Ayushquat Ayurved, which is a simple admixture of 4 herbal ingredients. The Karnataka government has announced a 14-day lockdown across the state starting from 9 p.m. tonight to break the chain of COVID-19 transmission in the state. The lockdown will be in force till 6 a.m. on the 12th of next month. Only essential shops would open from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. for the next 2 weeks. Announcing this yesterday in Bengaluru after the cabinet meeting, Chief Minister B.S. Yediyurappa said that public road transport including bus, auto and taxis in the state and metro train in Bengaluru would not operate for the next 14 days. More from our correspondent.
All cinema halls, shopping malls, gymnasiums, sports complexes, stadia, swimming pools, entertainment parks, clubs, bars and auditorium will remain closed. Marriages will be allowed with 50 people and funerals with 5 people following strict COVID-19 protocols. Except the manufacturing and the construction sector, all other sectors including government industry will remain closed. All agriculture-related activities will be allowed in rural areas. Health Minister Dr. K. Sudhakar has said that COVID vaccination will continue without any hindrance. Meanwhile, Deputy Chief Minister Dr. C.N. Ashwath Narayana has announced that all the engineering and the diploma exams have been postponed. R. Murthy, AIR News, Bengaluru.
The Assam government has imposed night curfew across the state from 8 p.m. to 5 a.m. with immediate effect. This will remain in force till the 1st of May. Health Minister Himanta Biswa Sarma said that a 1,000-bed COVID care centre will soon get functional in a private educational institute in Guwahati. Over 3,000 positive cases were reported in Assam yesterday. More from our Guwahati correspondent.
The order issued by the Chief Secretary imposed a complete ban on the movement of individuals from 8 p.m. to 5 a.m. in Assam. However, movement of people related to essential services, medical staff, patients is exempted from the night curfew as well as those who are going for COVID-19 vaccination. Journalists with valid identity card are also exempted from the purview of the night curfew. On the other hand, there shall be no restriction on interstate and interstate movement and transportation of essential or non-essential goods. No separate permission or e-pass will be required for such movement. Manas Pratim Sharma, AR News, Guwahati.
On the directives of Chief Minister Captain Amrinder Singh, the Punjab Home Department today issued orders imposing additional restrictions throughout the state forthwith till further orders. The department ordered all shops, including those in malls and multiplexes, to close by 5 p.m. with home delivery up to 9 p.m. Disclosing this at Chandigarh today, a spokesperson of the Chief Minister's office said that however daily night curfew shall now be from 6 p.m. to 5 a.m. on all days, prohibiting all non-essential activities. Earlier, the night curfew was enforced from 8 p.m. to 5 a.m. The weekend curfew has also been ordered from 5 a.m. on Saturday to 5 a.m. on Monday. However, all essential activities would remain exempted. All private offices, including the service industry, have been allowed to work from home only. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has directed officials to ensure rapid upgradation of health infrastructure in the country. Mr. Modi today chaired a meeting with top officials to review the COVID-19 related situation in the country. He got an overview on the situation in the country relating to oxygen availability, medicines and health infrastructure. The empowered group working on boosting oxygen supply briefed the Prime Minister on the efforts being made to ramp up availability and supply of oxygen in the country. They informed the Prime Minister about increasing allocation of oxygen to states. It was discussed that the production of liquid medical oxygen in the country has increased from 5,700 tons per day in August last year to the present 8,922 tons as on the 25th of this month. The domestic production of liquid medical oxygen is expected to cross 9,250 tons per day by the end of this month. The Prime Minister instructed the officials to work closely with state governments to start the PSA oxygen plants at the earliest.
Defence Minister Rajnath Singh today spoke to all the state governors and discussed the COVID-19 situation. Mr. Singh asked them to take the chief ministers to work out how ex-servicemen can be roped in to fight the pandemic. He also said that paramedical staff, nurses and doctors who retired from the forces should be roped in. The minister asked the governors to take the state governors into confidence. The Indian Army is taking multiple steps to enhance its medical capacities on account of rise in COVID cases amongst the veterans and their dependents. The Defence Ministry said Army is committed to give COVID care and treatment to the veterans and asked them to approach the nearest Army facility for any kind of assistance. COVID Care Centre will be set up at Kayad Vishram Sthali, Dargah Khwaja Sahib in Ajmer Sharif. Minority Affairs Minister Mukhtar Abbas Naqvi said that the centre has decided to give it to the state government to use it as a temporary COVID Care Centre. Mr. Naqvi asked Dargah Committee and people associated with it to assist wholeheartedly to the state government and administration in fight against the pandemic. The Delhi government will disburse medical aid of 5,000 to 10,000 rupees to COVID-positive construction workers and their families. In a statement, the government said, in light of the financial crisis caused due to the pandemic, the Delhi government has stepped up its efforts in providing aid in form of medical assistance to construction workers.
The Election Commission has banned all victory processions on or after the day of counting of votes for assembly polls in 5 states. The counting for assembly elections in West Bengal, Assam, Tamil Nadu, Kerala and Puducherry is on the 2nd of May. Not more than 2 people will be allowed to accompany the winning candidates to receive the certificate of election from the concerned returning officer. The ban by EC comes in view of the surge in COVID cases throughout the country. The Election Commission today said it has always emphasized in its instructions that the state authorities will ensure COVID compliance in the matter of public gatherings during poll campaign. The Commission added that on no occasion does it take over the task of State Disaster Management Authority for enforcement of COVID-19 instructions. In a statement following the directions and observations of different high courts on the compliance of COVID guidelines during assembly elections, the poll panel said it has been interacting regularly with State and UT Chief Secretary, State Health Secretary and the Chief Electoral Officers to ensure that all COVID-19 measures will be ensured at counting centres on the 2nd of next month. In West Bengal, all necessary preparations are being finalized for the 8th and final phase polling of assembly elections on Thursday. The polling will be conducted from 7 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. The polling process is already over in respect of 257 out of the total 294 assembly seats. In the earlier 7 phases, over 76% voter turnout was recorded in the 7th phase of polling yesterday. 35 assembly constituencies spread over 4 districts will go to polls in this phase. The counting of votes will be taken up together on the 2nd of May.
India's organic food product export rose by more than 50% in terms of value in 2020-21 despite COVID-19 challenges. The Commerce and Industry Ministry said in terms of quantity, the exports of organic food products grew by 39% to 888,000 metric ton during last financial year compared to 2019-20. The growth in organic products has been achieved despite logistical and operational challenges posed by the COVID-19 pandemic. The ministry said oil cake meal has been a major commodity of the organic product exports from the country, followed by oil seeds, cereals and millets, tea, medicinal plant products and dry fruits. India's organic products have been exported to 58 countries including the USA, European Union, Canada, Great Britain, Australia, Switzerland, Israel, South Korea. In IPL cricket, Royal Challengers Bangalore were 139 for 4 in 18 overs against Delhi Capitals at Narendra Modi Stadium in Ahmedabad when reports last came in. Earlier, Delhi Capitals captain Rishabh Pant won the toss and chose to field.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi has condoled the demise of famous Gujarati poet Padma Shri Dadudan Gadhvi. In a tweet, Mr. Modi said Kavi Dad Bapu's contribution in the field of folk literature will always be remembered. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has greeted the people on the occasion of Hanuman Jayanti. In a tweet today, the Prime Minister said the auspicious occasion of Hanuman Jayanti is a day to remember the compassion and dedication of Lord Hanuman. He wished that the blessing of Lord Hanuman continues in the ongoing fight against the COVID pandemic. Now let us take a look at the weather forecast for tomorrow. The national capital Delhi will have partly cloudy sky. The temperature will hover between 19 and 42 degrees Celsius. Mumbai will have mainly clear sky. Minimum temperature will be 27 degrees, while maximum is expected to be around 35. Chennai is expected to have partly cloudy sky. Temperature will vary between 27 and 36 degrees. Kolkata will have mainly clear sky. The city will observe a minimum temperature of 28 degrees Celsius, maximum of around 38 degrees. Srinagar will have mainly clear sky. Temperature will hover between 9 and 28 degrees. Gilgit will have mainly clear sky. Temperature will hover between 10 and 32 degrees. Muzaffarabad is also likely to have mainly clear sky. Minimum temperature will be 14 degrees, maximum around 35. And now before we end the bulletin, the headlines once again. Government intensifies efforts to meet oxygen supply throughout the country. Railway delivers 450 metric tons of liquid medical oxygen to Maharashtra, Uttar Pradesh and Delhi. More than 14 crore 52 lakh people administered COVID-19 vaccines so far. Over 2 lakh 50,000 people recover from COVID-19 in last 24 hours. Country witnesses some respite from a record number of new COVID-19 cases. Ayush Ministry releases revised guidelines for COVID-19 patients in home isolation and for self-care during pandemic. 2-week lockdown to come into force from tonight in Karnataka to check the spread of COVID-19 cases. Night curfew imposed in Assam till 1st of May. Election Commission bans all victory processions on or after the day of counting of votes for assembly polls in 5 states. Country's organic food product exports rise by more than 50% despite COVID-19 challenges in IPL cricket. Delhi Capitals take on Royal Challengers Bangalore in Ahmedabad. And with that we end the evening news. Good night.